Okay, I'm going to continue from where I left off before. I was talking about managed repair systems, and I was talking about how these insurance companies will, or there's a common practice now where these insurance companies are using what's called a managed repair system, where they hire private contractors who have special positioning with the insurance companies to actually do the repairs of property damage to a given policyholder's property. The problem with this, though, is that they are only given a certain amount of money. They're given a lot of business to these contractors, but they're only given a certain amount of money to them, and they have to get your repairs accomplished within this small amount of money. Now, to the policyholder, the insurance company will push this managed repair system and say, oh, well, we're going to take care of you. We're going to make sure that your property gets repaired correctly. And you don't have to, and then the public doesn't have to worry about increased premiums from uh, frivolous claims and frivolous lawsuits that says property that needs to be repaired that doesn't need to be repaired. And so we're going to send our special guys in there, and they're going to make sure that your property is repaired, and we're going to pay them directly. The problem with that is this: I, as an insurance professional, have never seen a managed repair that returned the property to the condition that it was in prior to the loss. What I have seen is that these contractors basically trying to make a profit and getting so little money from the insurance company to do it. They get a lot of business. Don't get me wrong, they get a lot of business, but they get so little money from doing this that they actually end up making quasi cosmetic repairs, and it doesn't bring the property to the full condition that it was in prior to the loss. And what ends up happening is when your property is appraised, when your property is appraised, you lose tens of thousands. I mean, you lose a ridiculous amount of value in your property, not to mention your property not being repaired properly is a safety hazard in some cases when you're talking about your basic systems, because they won't repair the whole thing. You know, they may repair a portion of it when they were obligated to repair a bigger part. And so these insurance companies are really playing games with things like this managed repair system, with things like this new law that they put into place, that where basically politicians have given insurance companies a financial incentive to continue to harass policyholders out of their position and out of their claim and out of their rightful lawsuits, their rightful money that they deserve for their property. I'm going to read on a little bit further here. Attorney Craig Island, a member of the Texas Trial Lawyers Association, said that property owners who submit insurance claims before Friday will be able to increase the amount of damages they receive if they file and win a lawsuit against their insurance company down the road. That statement, down the road, is important. You have to understand, as I mentioned in the first video, you have to understand that these insurance companies have screwed over Texans in the future homeowners, who's going to have property issues, who's going to have property damage, who's going to be the victims of the next Hurricane Harvey, are not going to be able to properly repair their homes. They're going to have problems now, because they said the major problem with Hurricane Harvey was flooding. It's a hurricane. You have wind, falling objects, fires. You have, believe it or not, you even have fires. All type of things that happen in a hurricane, in a natural disaster. That's why they call it a disaster. It's not just flooding, and it's not just a simple thing that your flood insurance is going to pay it. No, it's not as simple as that. These insurance claims are very complicated. The property damage that a homeowner has, or a business owner for that matter, have very complex financial considerations when it comes to repairing them and bringing that property whole, or more importantly, bringing the owner whole again for the loss that they received. And so it's important that there are protections in place, because there, as you can see from this bill, there are more than enough protections in place for the big companies, the big insurance companies. They don't even get they don't even get charged with fraud when they purposely underpay you. But if you, as a homeowner, say that your claim is worth a certain amount and they determine that it's not, they'll do everything that they can to try to investigate you for fraud, or try to make the case that you committed some kind of fraud. This, Texas, you have just been screwed. You have just been screwed. It really is a tragedy. What these uh, um, insurance companies are doing. I'm going to read a little bit further. Island said policyholders should file a written notice to their insurance carrier adjusters. I'm going to read a little bit further here. Let me see. Now, look at this. Lucy Nasheed, communication director for Texans for Lawsuit Reform, said policyholders should keep in mind that the new law won't change the way insurance claims are filed in Texas. She added, the vast majority of Texans won't end up filing a lawsuit and won't be affected by the new law. This, that's one of the biggest pieces of garbage that I have heard uh, from this new piece of news. This is one of the biggest pieces of garbage. What her and other defenders of this supposed lawsuit reform when it comes to homeowners policy and owners policies, this ridiculous statement that the vast majority of Texans won't end up filing a lawsuit. The reason why the people don't end up filing a lawsuit is that the insurance companies, when they're dragging out paying off your claim, and the attorneys get involved and they say, well, hey, listen, you're not only going to have to pay for the actual loss to the policyholders, the complete actual loss to the policyholders, but you're also going to have to pay in addition my complete attorney's fees. Most states, and especially states with big economies, most states have some type of law in place that protect policyholders from having to pay their own attorney's fees when insurance companies are showing bad faith and not doing what they're supposed to do. It's like a penalty for the insurance company for having not done what they were supposed to do in the first place. And so they end up not only having to pay, it's a reasonable penalty, but they end up not only having to pay for the insurance claim that they were supposed to pay for in the first place, but also the corresponding court and attorney's fees and associated investigation fees. So they have to pay for all of the things associated with it. But now, what this law have done, it's chopped in half what the fees that the fees that these insurance companies are going to have to pay. The reason why there wasn't that many lawsuits filed, the reason why the majority of insurance claims are settled out of court, is that the insurance companies don't want to pay the attorney. They want to drag it out as far as possible, but they don't want to pay the attorney's fees. They don't want to pay that 18% in Texas. So they drag it out as far as they can, and sometimes on the day of the trial, sometimes the day of the appearance in court, they say, "Okay, we'll settle for this," and then they'll do what we call in the industry a global settlement, and they end up giving 80 to 90%, sometimes even higher, of what was asked for, because they knew they shouldn't have dragged it out in the first place. That's complete fraud. That's complete fraud. And yet they're not being held accountable. Homeowners, citizens of Texas, you need to start making these politicians and making these insurance companies accountable for the fraud that they're committing. My name is Sean Simpkins. I'm a licensed and bonded public adjuster here in Florida, and I urge you to take a look at what's going on in relation to your home property, because you have other people in places of position who are basically taking tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars out